NTV Weekend Edition. Priscilla Regina Naloga here with Susan Mujao Ananda on sign language. Now, last week, the Higher Education Students Financing Body announced that they would suspend the provision of student loans to learners seeking to join universities and colleges in the academic year starting in August. These followed budget cuts in the education sector that have seen increased pressure on the board to live within its means. So, what will it mean for those seeking higher education this year? To help us appreciate this, we do have the Vice Chancellor of Victoria University, one of the institutions admitting students on the loan scheme. Welcome to Talk of the Nation. I am joined by Dr. Lawrence Muganga. Good evening to you, Doctor.
Good evening, Priscilla.
All right, analysis of this, looking at the scheme, it started in 2014 as a way of getting students to actually attain higher education, university education to be exact, while also requiring them to pay back when they graduate from the universities and pay back to the scheme. Do you think the poor payback period may actually be one of the reasons that the scheme has reached a point of suspension?
Let's begin here. It's really unfortunate and painful that the scheme is where it is right now. But of course, when you see in any, you can even bring it to the family level, when you see the head of the family saying that, you know what, this item on our budget, I'm cutting it out, you know that things are not going very well. All right? So is also government. When they put up their hand and they say, this is not something we can fund right now, you know that things are not doing well, which is now requiring us to rethink. Now, you asked me a very good question, but I want us to think a little bit bigger than this. When you ask these students, those who complete through this scheme, to pay back, we know very, very well that these students, almost 90% don't have the jobs. And chances are that they will spend 2 years, 3 years, 4 years without a job. It's very, very evident. It's known. So now that's when I really think that the conversation we should be having today and everywhere else right now, it should be geared towards solutions moving forward.
Speaking of solutions, one of the purposes of coming up with this scheme was to support the government's initiative to promote science, technology, and engineering, also known as STEAM. Now, if this suspension does exist in this financial year, that means that the government is capping its own national agenda. What are the repercussions of this?
Looking at the technology trends right now, we know that we need science, for sure. So, but again, we can develop everything we develop if we don't address the real problem. The real problem is that the education system we have today, and it's not rocket science, it should be known, does not actually create a graduate who is a student, actually, before you talk about a graduate, who is problem-solving oriented, who is innovative in nature, who does create. So we need to create a system where students do not sit in class for 5 days a week, 3 years in a classroom, but rather have them in 1 week, commit them to a classroom, 15 hours in a week. The rest of the hours, they are thinking, they are taught to think, they are taught to innovate, they are taught to create, they are taught to problem solve. Before you know, as they go along the way, they know something. They have created things. They don't even want employment. They are employing others. The jobs have multiplied like as many times as you think. So even as higher education institutions, we need to also rethink, not to just simply cry or do everything, to rethink the way we deliver education, right?
Dr. Muganga, focusing on the scheme, if you're talking about that nature of a problem where we don't have a problem-solving product coming out of the education system, what are the bottlenecks that are directly attached to this national scheme that is meant to be helping students who are unable to finance their higher education?
But it was evident that it is built on a foundation that is going to collapse. If you are funding a student who is not going to have a job, because there are no jobs, for sure. Where do you expect? Where do you want them to get the money to pay?
I have a job.
Yes.
And we have gone through the same system.
But you have a job, but you did not.
What is present
you have a job. When did you go to school is what matters, right? I went to school in university 1998, right? That time, the economy needed individuals, people. all right? And you accumulated experience along the way. Today you have a graduate who has 0 years of experience. NTV is looking for 3 years of experience. So where is the matching there? There's no matching. But anyway, there is a simple solution, and which is going to really solve this problem for us. Now, government needs to invest more money in developing internet infrastructure around the country. Then, as the education institutions, like Victoria University, we need to take education to the people where they are situated. And once we take education to the people, there are so many costs we have cut out. Accommodation of this student, out. Transportation of this student, out. Feeding of this student, out. So, and they are in their very communities. The community is the classroom, because they can now leverage technology to study from their very community. The cost of tuition becomes cheaper. So therefore, even if someone has a small goat, they will sell and they will afford education because it is near to them. They simply need a gadget and plug into any education system around the country without leaving their communities. They see the problems of the community, they solve them, technology is helping them, we are advancing science. That's what we need in this country.
Okay. Victoria University also has its own students' loan scheme, and you have been able to apply certain mechanisms to make sure that it has sustainability. Could you share with us?
Now, this is what we have done. Again, like I said, we have chosen to take education to people wherever they are situated. So that means it cuts out so many costs. For example, accommodation of these students, they don't need to come and look for a hostel. Transportation, they don't need to hop on a border on a daily basis. Insurance, they don't need to do that. Food, they don't need to spend. They have to stay within their normal resources and then acquire the same education. But when they finish school, we have made sure that if you fail to get a job in this country and you are maybe skilled in these specific areas, for example, nursing, for example, hospitality, for example, pharmacy, maybe we can also take you beyond the boundaries of Uganda. We can take you to Germany, we can take you to the UK, where we have had partners. Now, when you go there, make money, send it back, pay your student loan, and thrive.
Okay. What advice would you actually give to the financing board to be able to readjust this in preparation for the next financial year?
This is what I think. If the financing board is also part of government, right? So I think these students are citizens of this country, right? So we need to go back to these institutions, higher education institutions, and let's have a discussion. Let me tell you, all private institutions, for example, make no mistake, everyone is saying enrollments are very low, right? So sit down with private institutions, even public maybe, but private institutions, they have the need for numbers. Work out a deal with them. You know, maybe once you have something written, and it is guaranteed by government, even if you promise these private institutions, you come to Victoria University and you tell me, for example, that in 2 years we will be disbursing these fees for these students, allow them to study for the 2 years. We will do that, and I'm sure every private institution will do, as long as we have a guarantee that these people will pay anyway. The Students' Financing Board will pay. So that there is that kind of promissory element that you have, that usually you base on, and allow these students to come in. We shouldn't allow them to waste more time, because there's so much that can happen if we leave them out there.
Dr. Muganga, this scheme has had about 13,000 students go through it, and about 10,000 of those have actually not been able to complete their payments. Of course, there's repercussions, imprisonment and things like that. Some have had the privilege of being lenient in terms of getting to have to pay back the money. However, there's an opportunity that we do have. There's young men and women, there's youth out there that already have startups, small things that they've been doing to get an income here and there. If the scheme could redirect themselves to consider those kinds of youth within our communities, perhaps the repayment end of things would be better.
But that would be really, really very unfair, and too, it is politically incorrect, if I should even say that. Somebody already has a small business, right? And you're saying the scheme is targeting those people in need. So that person is no longer in need.
In need of skills.
All right? They need skills, but they are not in need of being able to access resources to support themselves, right? So rather, we should simply come up boldly and say, should we tie this scheme to innovative ideas? Anyone who is unable to fund themselves, who are really in too much need, can you create something? And once we evaluate as the Students Financing Board that this idea, this small kind of innovation can actually create something, then we are going to fund this person to be able to go to school and even get more skills to even develop this innovation further, which will create something for them and have money to pay back. But that goes back to how do we deliver educational learning. Can we have a block model system, for example, where the year is no longer divided in a semester system, right? It is rather divided in a trimester system, and every month a student is able to complete one module, right?
This conversation is also bringing to the reality of youth unemployment that we have in Uganda. Looking at the national youth policy, it recognizes major causes of high youth unemployment, being narrowed labor force market, the lack of unemployable skills, overemphasis on experience, and also minimal internship schemes. There's also the minimal wages that people are getting out there. How do we boost youth employment?
So that's what exactly, like I was telling you, that we go back to how do we deliver education. If you have a block modular system of delivering education, and you're saying that in the first 4 months of the year, the students are going to do one module a month. It means they have 4 weeks to complete that module, and they have 15 hours that they are going to commit a week to do that module. Now, along the way, the week, they have almost 2 to 3 days free. Now, the institution should now make sure that you extract innovative ideas. You place these students somewhere to be part of the learning process, such that once they finish a month, they have finished their module, but they are somewhere attached to a particular enterprise, NTV, where trying to get experience along the way, or trying to create an idea and they are working on it, refining it. So at the end of the day, 3 years down the road, these people have 3 years of experience, or they have created something, and unemployment problem is something we are reducing.
Thank you,
but
Doctor.
we need to rethink our education model.
Thank you, Doctor. Your conclusive remarks on this Talk of the Nation.
Thank you very much, NTV, for giving me this opportunity. But to those young people who have been deprived of an opportunity to come back to school, take heart. It's not the end of the road. Things will change, and we are busy advocating to make sure that there is a solution. And I'm sure government is listening, and you are part of government. You are the future of this country. So something will be done. Do not give up. Government will take care of you at some point.
All right, that has been our Talk of the Nation with the Vice Chancellor of Victoria University, Dr. Lawrence Muganga. And that brings us to the end of Talk of the Nation. Coming up is sports.